The morning started like any other at Kensington Palace. William sat at his desk, going through official papers while Kate prepared for her charity visit to the Children's Hospital. The royal couple had been dealing with intense pressure lately. The media had been particularly harsh, questioning their parenting choices and criticizing every public appearance. Kate walked into William's study, her eyes red from crying. She had just finished reading the morning newspapers, and the headlines were cruel. One tabloid had published photos of their children playing in the garden, calling them spoiled royal brats. Another questioned Kate's fitness as a mother, analyzing every gesture she made during public events. "I can't take this anymore," Kate whispered, her voice breaking. "They're attacking our children now. How can they be so heartless?" William looked up from his papers, his jaw clenched with anger. He had been trying to stay strong for his family, but seeing Kate so hurt made his own emotions surface. "We knew this life wouldn't be easy, but I never expected them to go after our children like this." The couple sat together on the couch, holding each other as tears flowed freely. They had always been a team, supporting each other through every challenge. But this felt different. The attacks were personal and relentless. Their private secretary knocked on the door, interrupting their moment. "Your Royal Highnesses, there's an urgent matter that requires your attention. The Prime Minister is on the phone." William wiped his eyes and straightened his shoulders. "Tell him we'll call back in 5 minutes." Turned to Kate, taking her hands in his. "We can't let them break us. Our children need us to be strong." Kate nodded, though her heart was heavy. "I just worry about George, Charlotte, and Louis. They're going to read these things someday. What if they believe what the papers say about us?" "They won't," William said firmly, "because we'll show them who we really are. We'll prove that love is stronger than hate." As they prepared to face another day of royal duties, neither of them knew that something extraordinary was about to happen. Something that would change everything and give them hope when they needed it most. The phone rang again, and this time it was their head of security. "Sir, there's a situation at the palace gates. You need to see this." William and Kate exchanged worried glances. After everything they had been through, they weren't sure they could handle another crisis. But they knew they had to face whatever was waiting for them. They walked toward the front of the palace, their hearts heavy with emotion. The morning sun streamed through the windows, but it felt cold and uninviting. Kate reached for William's hand, and he squeezed it gently. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," he said softly. As they approached the main entrance, they could hear voices outside. Lots of voices. Their security team was gathered near the windows, looking out at something that had captured their attention. "What's happening out there?" Kate asked nervously. Their head of security turned to them with an expression they couldn't quite read. "Your Royal Highnesses, you need to see this for yourselves. I've never seen anything like it in all my years of service." William felt his stomach tighten. After the morning they'd had, he was prepared for the worst. Perhaps protesters had gathered. Or maybe the media had set up camp outside their home. He took a deep breath and reached for the door handle. Kate standing close beside him. They had no idea that what awaited them on the other side would restore their faith in humanity and remind them why their work mattered. The door remained closed for now, but behind it lay something that would change their perspective forever. Something that would turn their tears of sadness into tears of joy and gratitude. William's hand trembled slightly as he gripped the door handle. Kate stood beside him, her breathing shallow with anxiety. The voices outside grew louder, but they still couldn't make out what was being said. "Are you ready?" William asked quietly. Kate nodded, though her heart was racing. "Together," she whispered, as William slowly opened the door. The first thing that hit them was the sheer number of people gathered outside the palace gates. But these weren't angry protesters or pushy journalists. These were families, mothers, fathers, children, and elderly people, all holding signs and flowers. A little girl at the front of the crowd spotted them first. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old, with curly red hair and a missing front tooth. "It's Princess Kate," she shouted excitedly, jumping up and down. The crowd turned toward them, and suddenly the air filled with cheers and applause. William and Kate stood frozen in the doorway, trying to process what they were seeing. These people weren't here to criticize them. They were here to support them. "We love you, William and Kate," called out a woman holding a baby. "Don't listen." To the newspapers. An elderly man in a wheelchair was being pushed forward by his grandson. He held up a handmade sign that read, "Thank you for your service. You make us proud to be British." Kate felt tears welling up in her eyes again, but this time they were tears of gratitude. A young mother approached the gate, her toddler son in her arms. "Your Royal Highness," she called out, "my son was in the hospital when you visited last month. You held him and sang to him. He's been asking for the nice princess every day since." William felt his throat tighten with emotion. Harsh headlines, this outpouring of love was overwhelming. He squeezed Kate's hand tighter. "We want to thank you both," shouted a teenager holding a poster covered in children's drawings. "My class made these for Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. We want them to know that kids everywhere think they're lucky to have such caring parents." The crowd continued to grow as more people arrived. There were teachers, nurses, shop workers, and students. People of all ages and backgrounds had come together for one purpose: to show their support for the royal couple. A group of military veterans stood at attention, saluting William. Their leader, a man with medals across his chest, spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Sir, we served our country, and we see you serving it too. Don't let anyone tell you that your work doesn't matter. It does." Kate wiped away her tears and took a step forward. The crowd quieted, waiting to hear what she might say. Her voice was soft but carried clearly in the morning air. "We never expected this," she began, her voice emotional. "This morning was difficult for us, and seeing all of you here, it means everything." The crowd erupted in more cheers and applause. Someone started singing "God Save the King," and others joined in. The beautiful melody filled the air, creating a moment of pure unity and love. William stepped beside Kate, his own eyes wet with tears. "You've reminded us why we do what we do," he said. "It's not for the newspapers or the critics. It's for all of you." A young girl pushed through the crowd, her mother helping her reach the front. She held up a drawing of William, Kate, and their 3 children, all smiling and holding hands. "I made this for you," she called out, "because you're a real family, just like mine." The security team looked on in amazement. In all their years of protecting the royal family, they had never witnessed such a spontaneous outpouring of public support. This wasn't planned or organized. It was genuine love from ordinary people. As William and Kate continued to interact with the crowd, more people kept arriving. Social media was buzzing with the news, and people were sharing the location, encouraging others to come and show their support. But the couple didn't know that this was just the beginning. The real surprise was yet to come, and it would be something that would touch their hearts even more deeply than this incredible show of public support. As the crowd continued to grow, William and Kate noticed something extraordinary happening. People weren't just standing around, they were organizing themselves. Teachers were helping children hold their signs higher. Elderly people were being given chairs to sit on. Complete strangers were sharing umbrellas and offering each other water. "Look at this," Kate whispered to William, pointing to a group of teenagers who were helping a disabled man get a better view. "They're taking care of each other." A woman in a nurse's uniform approached the gates, carrying a large folder. "Your Royal Highness," she called to Kate, "I work at the children's hospital you visited last month." Brought letters from the children, who couldn't be here today. Kate's heart swelled as she accepted the folder. The nurse continued, "They wanted you to know that your visit meant everything to them. Some of these kids are fighting serious illnesses, but they haven't stopped talking about the day you came to see them." William watched his wife's face light up as she flipped through the letters. Each one was decorated with colorful drawings and written in a child's handwriting. Some were only a few words long, while others filled entire pages with stories about their hospital stay and how Kate's visit had made them feel special. "Read this one," Kate said, handing William a letter, decorated with rainbow stickers. It was from an 8-year-old girl named Emma who had been in the hospital for 3 months. The letter read, "Dear Princess Kate, when you came to visit, I was very scared about my operation. But you sat with me and told me about your children and how brave they are. You made me feel brave too. My operation went well, and I'm going home tomorrow. Thank you for being my friend when I needed one most." William felt his eyes fill with tears as he read Emma's words. "These children understand what really matters," he said softly. "They see past all the newspaper stories and gossip. They see the real us." The crowd had grown to several hundred people now, and more were arriving every minute. Someone had brought a speaker, and gentle music was playing. Children were dancing, and their parents were clapping along. The atmosphere was festive and joyful. A group of students from a local art school had set up easels and were painting portraits of William and Kate. They worked quickly, capturing the emotion of the moment. One young artist, a girl with paint-splattered hands, held up her canvas for them to see. "This is beautiful," Kate said, genuinely moved by the painting. It showed her and William surrounded by a rainbow of faces, people of all ages and backgrounds, all smiling and reaching out toward them. "It's called The People's Love," the artist explained. "I wanted to show that no matter what the newspapers say, real people know who you are and what you stand for." William noticed an elderly couple sitting on a bench that someone had brought from a nearby park. They were holding hands and watching the scene with peaceful smiles. He walked over to them. "Thank you for coming," he said, kneeling down to their level. The old man's eyes twinkled. "We've been married for 62 years, young man. We know what real love looks like, and we see it between you and your wife. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not good enough. You are." His wife nodded enthusiastically. "We raised 4 children of our own, and we can tell good parents when we see them. Your children are lucky to have you both." Meanwhile, Kate was talking to a group of mothers who had brought their babies and toddlers. The children were fascinated by her, reaching out to touch her face and hair. She laughed as a baby grabbed her necklace and tried to put it in his mouth. "They're not afraid of you at all," one mother observed. Children can sense when someone has a good heart. The crowd had become like a giant outdoor family gathering. People were sharing stories, laughing together, and creating new friendships. Food trucks had appeared, and volunteers were handing out free snacks and drinks. A local school choir arrived and began singing beautiful songs. Their voices harmonized perfectly, creating a soundtrack for this incredible day. Even the palace guards, who usually remain stoic and professional, were smiling and nodding along to the music. As the afternoon wore on, William and Kate continued to move through the crowd, meeting as many people as they could. Each conversation was meaningful, each smile genuine. They were experiencing something that no royal protocol could have prepared them for: the pure, unfiltered love of their people. But as touching as this public display of support was, the biggest surprise was still to come. Something that would make this day even more special and meaningful than they could have imagined. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the gathered crowd, William and Kate thought the day couldn't get any more magical. They'd spent hours meeting people, listening to stories, and feeling the genuine love that surrounded them. Then, something unexpected happened that would make this day truly unforgettable. A familiar black car pulled up to the edge of the crowd. William and Kate watched curiously as their children's nanny stepped out, followed by 3 small figures they recognized immediately. George, Charlotte, and Louis had arrived. "Daddy, Mummy," Charlotte called out, running toward them with her arms outstretched. The crowd parted like the sea, creating a path for the young princess. Kate knelt down and scooped her daughter into her arms. "What are you doing here, sweetheart?" "We saw all the people on TV," George explained, reaching for his father's hand. "They were saying nice things about you, and we wanted to come say thank you." Louis, the youngest at 5 years old, was looking around at the crowd with wide eyes. "Are all these people our friends?" he asked innocently. The question melted hearts throughout the crowd. "Yes, darling," Kate said softly. "These are very special friends." What happened next was pure magic. The crowd, which had been enthusiastic before, became absolutely enchanted by the presence of the royal children. But instead of pushing forward or becoming chaotic, everyone seemed to understand that this was a precious moment that needed to be protected. A space formed naturally around the family, giving them room to be together while still allowing everyone to see People took out their phones not to intrude, but to capture the beautiful sight of a family reunited with their people. George, who at 11 was beginning to understand his future role, looked around at the gathered crowd with mature eyes. "Why are they all here?" he asked his parents. William knelt down to his son's level. "Because sometimes, when people care about each other, they come together to show their support. These people want us to know that they believe in our family." Charlotte, ever the social butterfly, waved at the crowd. "Hello, everyone," she called out, and the crowd erupted in gentle applause and waves back. An elderly woman near the front called out, "Princess Charlotte, you're even more beautiful in person." Charlotte giggled and hid her face in her mother's shoulder. Louis, not to be outdone by his siblings, decided to show off. He started doing little jumps and spins, making the crowd laugh and cheer. "Look what I can do," he shouted, attempting a cartwheel that ended with him tumbling safely into his father's arms. The crowd loved every moment of it. These weren't just royal children, they were real kids, being silly and playful like any other children their age. A group of school children, who had been waiting patiently near the front, began singing a song they had learned in music class. It was a simple melody about friendship and kindness. George, Charlotte, and Louis listened intently, and soon Charlotte was humming along. "They know that song," Charlotte exclaimed excitedly. "We sang it at school too." The realization that these royal children were just like any other kids seemed to touch everyone present. They went to school, learned songs, played games, and got excited about the same things as their peers. A young mother holding her toddler stepped forward carefully. "Your Royal Highness," she said to Kate, "my daughter is the same age as Princess Charlotte. She's been so excited to see a real princess." Kate smiled warmly.
"Would Charlotte like to say hello to your daughter?"
The two little girls looked at each other shyly for a moment before Charlotte gave a small wave. "I like your dress," she said politely. The other little girl beamed and whispered thank you before hiding behind her mother. The crowd watched these interactions with pure joy. Phones were recording, but respectfully, from a distance. People were witnessing something rare and beautiful, a royal family. Being completely natural and genuine with their people, William looked around at the faces surrounding them. There were tears of happiness, smiles of pride, and expressions of pure love. This was what they had needed to see after the morning's harsh headlines. "You know what?" William said to Kate quietly. "I think our children are seeing something important today. They're learning that being royal isn't about being above people. It's about being with them." Kate nodded, watching as Louis attempted to high-five everyone within reach. They're learning that love is stronger than criticism, and that good people will always outnumber the negative voices. As the family stood together, surrounded by hundreds of people who had come simply to show their support, they felt a peace they hadn't experienced in months. The morning's tears seemed like a distant memory, but the day wasn't over yet. There was one more surprise waiting. Something that would make this extraordinary day complete and give them a memory they would treasure forever. As the evening approached, the crowd began to organize something special. Without any official planning or royal protocol, the people had decided to create their own ceremony of support. A woman who introduced herself as a primary school teacher stepped forward with a megaphone someone had provided. "If I could have everyone's attention," she called out gently, "we'd like to do something special for this wonderful family."
Ow.
The crowd quieted, and even the children stopped their playing to listen. William and Kate looked at each other curiously, wondering what was being planned. "We've all come here today because we believe in this family," the teacher continued. "We've seen their kindness, their dedication, and their love for each other and for all of us. We want to show them that they're not alone." From different sections of the crowd, people began pulling out candles. Small tea lights, tall pillar candles, and even phone flashlights appeared throughout the gathering. Someone had come prepared with matches and lighters, and the flames began to spread from person to person. "This is incredible," Kate whispered to William as they watched hundreds of tiny lights begin to illuminate the growing darkness. George tugged on his father's sleeve. "Daddy, why are they lighting candles?" "I think they're showing us that even in dark times, there's always light," William explained, his voice thick with emotion. As the candles were lit, something even more beautiful happened. People began sharing their own stories about how William and Kate had touched their lives. The teacher with the megaphone facilitated, allowing people to speak if they wanted to. A young man stepped forward first. "I met Prince William at a mental health event 3 years ago," he said. "I was struggling with depression and didn't think anyone cared. He sat with me for 20 minutes, just listening. That conversation saved my life." The crowd listened respectfully as more people shared their experiences. A woman talked about how Kate's visit to her daughter's school had inspired her child to read again. A veteran described how William's work with military families had helped him adjust to civilian life. "I was homeless for 2 years, an older man said, his voice shaking slightly. "I felt invisible, like I didn't matter to anyone. Then I met Princess Kate at a shelter. She didn't just shake my hand and move on. She asked about my story, my family, my dreams. She made me feel human again." Charlotte looked up at her mother with wide eyes. "Mummy, you helped that man?" Kate nodded, tears streaming down her face. "We try to help everyone we can, sweetheart. It's what our job is about."
The stories continued, each one more touching than the last. A nurse talked about how their hospital
visits brought hope to sick children. A teacher described how their education initiatives had changed her students' lives. A young mother shared how Kate's parenting advice during a chance meeting had helped her through a difficult time. With each story, the candles seemed to glow brighter. The entire scene looked like something from a fairy tale. Hundreds of people, holding lights, sharing love, and creating magic together. Then, something unexpected happened. A group of children from a local choir school began singing 1,000 Years, a song about enduring love. Their pure voices carried across the crowd, and others began humming along. Louis, who had been listening to all the stories, suddenly stepped forward. In his small, clear voice, he said, "Thank you for being nice to my mummy and daddy. They work really hard to make people happy." The crowd's reaction was immediate and overwhelming. There wasn't a dry eye in sight as people applauded the little Prince's heartfelt words. George, inspired by his younger brother's bravery, also stepped forward. "My parents taught me that being royal means caring about other people," he said with the wisdom of someone far older than his years. "Thank you for showing us that you care about us too." Charlotte, not to be outdone, added, "We love you all very much, and we're happy you're our friends." The simple, honest words from the royal children seemed to capture everything that needed to be said. The crowd erupted in applause, but it was gentle and respectful, filled with love rather than just excitement. As the applause died down, something beautiful happened. Without any prompting or organization, the crowd began to sing Amazing Grace. The melody started softly with just a few voices, but it grew stronger as more people joined in. William and Kate stood with their children, surrounded by the warm glow of hundreds of candles and the beautiful sound of voices raised in harmony. The contrast to their mourning couldn't have been greater. "This is what we'll remember," Kate whispered to William. "Not the harsh headlines or the criticism. This moment, right here, with all these beautiful people." William nodded, holding his family close. "They've given us something precious tonight. They've reminded us that love is stronger than hate, and that good people will always outnumber the negative voices." As the song ended, the crowd remained in respectful silence, holding their candles high. The scene was breathtaking. Hundreds of tiny lights against the dark sky, representing hope, love, and unity. But there was still one more surprise to come, something that would make this perfect evening complete, and give the royal family a memory they would treasure for the rest of their lives. As the evening reached its peak, with hundreds of candles flickering in the darkness and the beautiful harmony of voices still echoing in the air, something truly magical began to happen. From the back of the crowd, a soft humming began. It was so quiet at first that only those nearby could hear it. But gradually it grew stronger and more recognizable. Someone was humming Happy Birthday. But this wasn't anyone's birthday. The humming grew louder, and then a woman's voice called out, "Clearly, today isn't your birthday, but it's the birth of something new. A new understanding between the royal family and the people they serve." The crowd began to understand what was happening. This wasn't just a song. It was a celebration. Celebration of love, unity, and the special bond that had been created. On this extraordinary day, soon the entire crowd was singing, but they had changed the words. Instead of happy birthday, they sang happy family. Dear William and Kate, happy family to you. The royal family stood together, completely overwhelmed by the love surrounding them. Charlotte clapped her hands in delight, while George wiped away tears he was trying to hide. Louis bounced excitedly, not fully understanding but feeling the joy all around him. As the song ended, an elderly gentleman stepped forward from the crowd. He was wearing a military uniform decorated with medals, and he walked with the proud bearing of someone who had served his country for many years. Your Royal Highnesses, he said in a strong, clear voice, I am Colonel James Morrison, retired. I served in the Royal Army for 35 years, and I've seen many changes in our country. But I've never seen anything like what happened here. Today, the crowd listened respectfully as the colonel continued. This wasn't organized by any government office or royal protocol. This happened because ordinary people, teachers, nurses, students, parents, grandparents, wanted to show their love and support. This is what real Britain looks like. William stepped forward and saluted the colonel, who returned the salute. With precision, Sir, your words mean more to us than you know. Today has shown us that we're not just working for the crown, we're working with the people. The colonel smiled warmly. That's exactly right, Your Royal Highness. And we want you to know that we'll always be here to support you, especially when times get difficult. As if on cue, the crowd began to disperse, but slowly and reluctantly. People didn't want this magical evening to end. They exchanged phone numbers, made plans to meet again, and promised to stay in touch. A group of teenagers approached the royal family one last time. We made something for you, one of them said shyly, holding out a large scrapbook. We've been working on it all day, taking pictures and getting people to write messages. Kate accepted the scrapbook with trembling hands. As she flipped through the pages, she saw hundreds of photos from the day, candid shots of the crowd, pictures of the children playing, images of the candle-lighting ceremony, and page after page of handwritten messages. Look at this one, she said to William, pointing to a message from a young mother. Thank you for showing my daughter that princesses are real, that they care about people like us. Another message read, Today restored my faith in humanity. If a royal family can be this genuine and caring, then maybe we can all try to be better people. George read over his mother's shoulder and found a message addressed to him. Dear Prince George, you're going to be a great king someday because you have parents who taught you that being royal means serving others. As the family continued to look through the scrapbook, they realized that this wasn't just a collection of photos and messages. It was a testament to the power of love and unity. It was proof that even in difficult times, people could come together and create something beautiful. The last few people were saying their goodbyes. When a little girl who had been there all day approached Charlotte, she handed her a small handmade bracelet made of colorful beads. I made this for you, the girl said softly. It's a friendship bracelet. Every color represents something different. Red for courage, blue for loyalty, yellow for happiness, and green for hope. Charlotte accepted the bracelet with the seriousness of someone receiving a precious gift. Thank you, she said formally, then broke into a grin. I'll wear it always. As the family finally walked back toward the palace, they were quiet each, lost in their own thoughts about the incredible day they had experienced. The morning's tears and heartbreak seemed like they had happened to different people. William stopped at the door where the day had begun and turned back to look at the now empty space where hundreds of people had gathered. A few flowers and candles remained, left behind as tokens of love. You know what the most beautiful part of today was? Kate said softly. What's that? William asked, still holding the scrapbook. It wasn't planned. It wasn't organized by anyone in authority. It just happened because people wanted to show love. That's the most genuine thing we've ever experienced. Charlotte tugged on her mother's dress. Mummy, can we do this again sometime? Kate smiled and picked up her daughter. I don't think we can plan something like this, sweetheart. But I think we learned something important today. When we're genuine with people, when we show them our real selves, they respond with their hearts. As they entered the palace, all 5 of them knew that this day would be remembered forever. It's not just by them, but by everyone who had been part of it. It was a day that proved love is stronger than criticism, unity is more powerful than division, and that sometimes the most beautiful moments in life are the ones that happen completely by surprise. The harsh headlines from the morning newspaper lay forgotten on William's desk, placed by something far more valuable, the knowledge that they were truly loved and supported by the people they served.